All right, this is the book of Joshua, chapter 12, 52, about King Nimrod. It says, "And the wise servant of the king, whose name was Anuki, answered the king, saying, This is nothing but else but the evil of Abram and his seed, which will spring up against my lord and king in the latter days. And behold, the day will come when Abram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and they will smite all the king's host and his troops. And as to what thou hast said concerning 3 men which thou didst see, like unto thyself, and which did escape, this means that only thou wilt escape, with 3 kings from the kings of the earth, who will be with thee in battle. And that which thou sawest of the river, which turned to an egg as at first, and the young bird plucking out thine eye, this means nothing else but the seed of Abraham, which will slay the king in the latter days. This is my king's dream, and this is the interpretation, and the dream is true, and the interpretation which thy servant has given thee is right. Now therefore, my king, surely thou knowest that it is now the 52 years since thy sages saw this at the birth of Abraham. And if my king will suffer Abram to live in the earth, it will be the injury of my lord and king. For all the days that Abram liveth, neither thou nor thy kingdom will be established. For this was known formerly at his birth. And why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from thee in latter days? And Nimrod hearkened to the voice of Anuki, and he sent some of his servants in secret to go and seize Abram and bring him before the king to suffer death. And Eliezer, Abram's servant whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king, and he heard that Anuki had advised the king, and what the king had said to cause Abram's death. Eliezer said to Abram, Hasten, rise up and save thy soul, that thou mayest not die through the hands of the king. For thus did he see in a dream concerning thee, and thus did Anuki interpret it. And thus also did Anuki advise the king concerning thee. Abram hearkened to the voice of Eliezer, and Abram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noah and his son Shem. And he concealed him there and found a place of safety. And the king's servant came to Abram's house to seek him, but they could not find him. And they searched throughout the country, and he was not to be found. And they went and searched in every direction, and he was not to be met with. When the king's servants could not find Abram, they returned to the king, but the king's anger against Abram was stilled, as they did not find him, and the king drove from his mind this matter concerning Abram. Abram was concealed in Noah's house for 1 month, until the king had forgotten this matter, but Abram was still afraid of the king. And Terah came to see Abram his son secretly in the house of Noah. And Terah was very great in the eyes of the king. Abram said to his father, Dost thou not know that the king thinketh to slay me, and to annihilate my name from the earth by the advice of his wicked counselors? Now, whom hast thou here, and what hast thou in this land? Arise, let us go together to the land of Canaan, that we may be delivered from his hand, lest thou perish also through him in the latter days. Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that it is not through love that Nimrod giveth thee all this honor, but it is only for his benefit that he bestoweth all this good upon thee, for his own benefit. And if he do unto thee greater good than this, surely these are only vanities of the world, for the wealth and riches cannot avail in the day of wrath and anger. Now therefore hearken to my voice, and let us arise and go to the land of Canaan, out of the reach of injury from Nimrod, and serve thou the Lord who created thee in the earth, and it will be well with thee, and cast away all the vain things which thou pursuest. And Abram ceased to speak, when Noah and his son Shem answered Terah, saying, True is the word which Abram hath said unto thee. And Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram. And Terah did all that Abram said, for this was from the Lord, that the king should not cause Abram's death. So from the time of Abraham's birth, Nimrod tried to kill Abraham 3 different occasions. At his birth, later in his life, at the fire of Casdim, and then after Nimrod's dream. So I have this all chronicled. Let's look at my notes, and I'm going to start right here. So in chapter 26 of the book of Jasher, in the 59th year of Isaac and Rebekah was still barren, Isaac at 60 years begat Esau and Jacob, the twins, which is 2,108 years after the creation, which I have at 2006 BC. At their 15th year, Isaac's whole family all lived in the land of Havilah. Abram died in the 15th year of Jacob and Esau at 175 years, which is 2123 after the creation. 2,123 years after the creation. It came up to be the year 1991 BC. In chapter 27 of the book of Jasher, Esau killed Nimrod in the wilderness and 2 men with him, and cut off Nimrod's head and took Nimrod's garments, the clothes, the sheep skins that Adam wore when he and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden. Okay, Nimrod was 215 years when he died. He reigned 185 years. I have Nimrod being the king from 2176 BC to 1991 BC, which is 1,930 years after the creation of man to the year 2,123 years after the creation. Chapter 26, 17. Nimrod's kingdom became divided and were restored to the respective kings of the land. People of Nimrod were enslaved to the other kings for a long time. Okay. My other notes about the kingdoms of Babylon. Nimrod at 2206 BC conquered the whole known world, defeating the sons of Japheth in battle and all their other kingdoms. So at a time, Nimrod was the king of the whole known world for 185 years. At the Tower of Babel, we have at 2118 to 2117 BC. It was destroyed by a great earthquake, the wrath of God. I have Nimrod being born at 2206 BC, and he died at 1991 BC. He reigned from 2156 BC to 1991 BC for 185 years. So look at that date. 2156 is a kingdom of Egypt. 2156. I have the 8th dynasty, 2174 to 2155. It ends at 2155 BC, the 8th dynasty. So if he began to reign at 2156, that's the beginning of the 9th dynasty at Heracleopolis Magna, which says 2154 through 2100 BC. 13 kings, including Meribri Kaheti I and Nebkari Kaheti II. Dynasty 10 at Heracleopolis, 2100 to 2052 BC. So that is during the reign of Nimrod, who I said reigned from 2156 to 1991 BC. 2156. The end of the 8th dynasty, beginning of the 9th dynasty. 1991 BC will be during the reign of Amenemhat I at the 12th dynasty. That's the death of Nimrod. So he reigned from the 9th dynasty of Egypt to the beginning of the 12th dynasty. Nimrod reigned for 185 years, according to the Bible in the book of Jasher, which is the book of Joshua, who wrote the book. But I don't even think that's the real name of the person, Joshua. Whoever succeeded Tutmos III, his name was Amenemhat II. So who, we say the biblical Moses is Tutmos III. So whoever succeeded Moses, Tutmos III, Amenhotep II. will be during the reign of this book of Joshua, book of Jasher, the biblical Joshua, who they say is another pre-nomen for Christ, Yeshua. Yeshua is Joshua. But in Jesus Christ's name, the Greeks say amen. And the successor of Moses, Tutmos III, who he says the biblical Moses, his successor is called Amenhotep. Amenhotep. Jesus Christ's name is Yeshua. To the Ethiopians and the Hebrews, they call him Yeshua. Okay. Prenomen for Jesus Christ in Hebrew, Yeshua. Ethiopians call him Yeshua, the Christ picker. Now, the successor of Moses in the Bible is supposed to be Jesus Christ. We said the biblical Moses is Tutmos III. His successor was called Amenhotep II. So, you see the parallels? That's what I'm trying to say. And so for a long time, the kingdom of Cush, which would have been Akkad in Ethiopia, the Akkadians and the Ethiopians ruled for a long time. And during that period, they had wars with the sons of Japheth. They enslaved the people of the north and the west. So this is the historical enmity. This is how the Trojan War began during the reign of Nimrod, which is in the second seal right here. This is when all of the great works went out, when all of the great works you see in Egypt, you see the works in India and in China. And they say in the Book of Mormon, the pre-dynastic period of Egypt with the Jaredites was here in Mexico, on the Pacific side of Mexico, in Oaxaca, the Olmec centers in Central America are dated to the same period, around about the 2000 BC period. But the earth was one. The earth was one giant landmass. I believe that. And it was divided at the Tower of Babel, which is the second seal. Okay. All right. We're going to chronicle everything like from the time of this story right here, the fire of Castum. I have that. And Abram and Haran were thrown in the fire of Castum. Abram destroyed the idol gods of Terah's house. Nimrod had him in prison 10 days and sentenced him to die in the fire of Castum. Furnace of Castum. Abram was saved by the Lord. Haran was burnt to death. I have that at 2116 BC, which is 1,998 years after the creation of Adam. Haran was born 916 AC, and he lived 82 years. 1,998 years after the creation. Abram was delivered from the fire, and all bowed before him. Abram returned to his father's house that day after with gifts and 2 servants. Nahor and Abram took unto themselves wives, daughters of Haran. Nahor married Milcah. Abram married Sarah. 2 years after Abram's coming out of the fire of Castum. Nimrod sat on his throne in Babel. Nimrod's dream was chapter 12, 46 through 59 of the book of Jasher. I have that at 2114 BC. Happened the fire of Castum. 2114 BC. Look at that on the Annals of the Kings of Egypt, 2114. Heracleopolis, Dynasty 9 in Egypt. That's when I believe it to take place. Nimrod follows the advice of Anuki to slay Abram. Now, I looked up the word Anuki in the encyclopedia. You Google it, and you will see it's an Egyptian figure. It's like a person of the ancient Egyptian empire. And it's a deity. You will look at it. He was like a god in Egypt. He gave advice to Nimrod in this story. So Abram hearkened to the voice of Eliezer, his servant, ran for safety to the house of Noah, and his son Shem concealed him, and he wasn't found. And I said the biblical Noah is Menes. Menes is the father of the 3 pyramid builders. Just like it's 3 sons of Noah in the Bible, there are 3 pyramids in the Giza complex in Egypt. So, where they concealed Abraham in Noah's house for 1 month until the king Nimrod forgot the matter and stopped searching for him.